you, Frank? You'll get there? Yeah, it's not. Oregon now. We're going to take in some hot springs and go a few places over here, over into Idaho possibly. We pass over the foothill of the Steens to find the Alvord Desert ahead of us. Since the Alvord Desert is in the rain shadow of the Steens Mountains, we'll spend a couple nights and a day here just to dry out a little bit. There's a hot springs here we can use, and also there's some very nice wildflowers in bloom now. So we're going to enjoy the Alvord Desert once again. The wildflowers are in full bloom now, adding their beauty and color and contrast to another. Frank sailed across the desert at breakneck speed, only to run out of wind on the other end. Good thing he had his granddaughter along to push, but after a while the wind came back up and away they went again. You need me to pull you, Frank? You'll get there? Yeah, it's not far. Raindrops are pelting the hot water of the hot springs as we come to get in. But that's all right, the water's warm enough to compensate for it.
Hope you got a lens on that camera. That'll glare the hell out of everything.
Yeah.
We got some water pushed our way last night.
Oh.
She was sitting down. That's too close for something. Get that thing out, hold it on, and just swing at it. So you get them there.
After spending a full day around the Alvord Desert, the next morning, real early, it's time for us to move on. As we head east, we come across a herd of very, very pretty wild horses of the Oregon Desert. They're between the Alvord Desert and Burns Junction. We saw them right from the road, and they are some really pretty colored horses. Our first look at the awesome Sawtooth Mountain Range in Idaho, and they're snow-capped year-round. By now, we've reached the trail head where the road ends and the trail begins. Now,
we're getting an
one
early
foot ahead
start
of the
here
other till we
on our
make it
way
up
up to
to
Goldbug
Goldbug Hot Springs. There are a few old beef cows sharing the trail with us on the way up, and they're eating some of the grass alongside the trail. This is their summer range. Marge stops for a minute to inspect the old shack along the trail side, built by the old gold miners many, many years ago. It looks like it's almost done for now. Across the second bridge, across a little creek along the trail. The farther up we go, the steeper the terrain becomes, and the more violent the rapids are in the little creek, and the louder the roar of it. As we climb one foot in front of the other, we're going right up the trail, right up into the rocks where it's getting really steep. Numerous kinds of wildflower are in bloom at trail's edge. The sweet fragrance of the mock orange sweetens the air on trail's edge. Now we're into the rocks, climbing up over some little cliffs here. But we'll soon be there now. We can hear the creek roaring louder and louder every step we go. Marge pauses for a moment to look back at the scenery as she catches her breath. It's becoming a little hot now, and you can see she's sweating pretty good by now. By now the rapids have given way to waterfalls. These waterfalls come crashing down right alongside the trail as the creek slowly makes its way down to the Salmon River, which will eventually run into the Columbia River systems and into the Pacific Ocean. Our pace is slowed now as the terrain becomes steeper and steeper and the weather outside becomes hotter. We always try to go up here early of a morning
Even some wild roses grace the trail's edge as we get closer and closer to the hot springs. Then we see it, steam raising as the water comes boiling out of the ground in a number of places. Someone's dammed up one of these little hot springs that comes gurgling right out of the ground and made a little pool that you can get in. But we're going to go ahead and cross the third bridge, and we'll find us a good place to camp. Then we'll go try that hot water out and see if it isn't about right. We find a spot up in the shade of the junipers. Someone's leveled out a little spot, so we'll put the tent up and call this home for the next few days. The creek sounds are so loud, it's almost like being in a factory, but it's a good sound, and we sleep really well with the creek roaring in the background. The tent's up and ready to go, but I like to get my sleeping bag and everything all laid out, so after I use the hot springs or go for a hike or whatever, I can come up and get right in bed without having to make it. The view from our camp is awesome. We can see out across the canyon below, and the hot springs is directly below us, so we'll go down and try it out. This is hot water. A big stream of it just comes gushing right out of the earth, and it's just exactly the right temperature as it crashes and falls down over waterfall after waterfall, mixing with cold water in certain places so you can pick your temperature. The monkey flowers are taking advantage of the steam along the edge of the hot spring and growing and blooming really good. How's the water?
Warm.
Is it nice?
Yeah, clear too.
And boy, does that feel good. After that long hike up, we were ready for this. I'm going to get right in under that hot waterfall and get me a good massage. I've never seen a hot tub with that great a massage feature in it. That's the best yet I've ever been under. And this water is perfectly clear. It just comes right out of the ground right. And the water in the pool looks as though it's clear enough you can drink it. I'll go down and get under the waterfall down below. That water comes crashing down so hard that it actually stings when it hits you. If that doesn't relieve the aches and pains, I guess there's no hope. What a huge spring with a lot of flow, and it just comes shooting out of the ground right with all kinds of force and then just tumbles directly into the pool. So there's no chance for that water to be polluted, and the water is crystal clear in the natural pools. You can see every stone in the bottom, and it's just the perfect temperature with trees on the hills around. But it looks like there's a thunderstorm brewing. So we'll get out of the hot springs when the storm gets closer. You shouldn't be in the hot springs with a thunderstorm. Where's that lightning coming from? Over that direction, is it?
Yeah, it's all kind of sweeping across this way.
Yeah. Trying to get it here. sky is lit up, and the whole area shakes and trembles from the thunder as this violent storm passes through. It rains first, then it hails, and we got about an inch of water just in a few minutes here. One thing about these thunderstorms, they only last about 15 to 20 minutes, but they can sure be violent and put down a lot of rain. The cliffs as well as the trees shake and rumble as the thunderstorm moves farther and farther away. It's passing by now, and I can't say but what I'm a little bit pleased at that. The weather clears up to reveal a full moon, totally full. As it creeps its way, what an awesome sight, with the roar of the creek behind us and the full moon at the hot springs of Goldbug, Idaho. If that moon were any bigger or any fuller, there wouldn't be enough sky to hold it. Just a total full moon with the hot springs right below us and all the steam and hot water. What an experience. Like all good things, this has to come to an end. We have to go now. We have to go check the cabin. Marge hasn't received a power bill, and we're wondering what in the world's happening. And we have to mow the grass around the cabin because there's been a lot of moisture and a lot of grass growing this year. And it just very well might catch on fire when this grass matures. So if we cut it, we should be okay. We put our packs on and we're ready to make the trail below. The first part of the trail is a little steep, and it's always a little harder going downhill than it is uphill, but within an hour we're at our vehicle and we're heading along the Sawtooth Mountains with a course charted east, heading for the cabin. The road is straight and through this long valley as we head toward the cabin. This was one of the spots where the early pioneers were able to get through the mountains. It's just a nice long valley. Then we see the Teton Mountains rising up ahead of us as we go toward Teton Pass and Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
What were you doing?
Nothing, just go ahead.
Marge was looking at the scenery and nearly crashed us into the guardrail as we go down over Teton Pass. She's not admitting a thing though. We're coming out in Jackson Hole, the Snake River. The town of Jackson's down here. I sure smell somebody's brakes. It's hot. I hope it's not ours. Whose brakes are hot,
It's not
Marge?
ours.
We leave the paved highway and drive 3 miles down a dirt and gravel road to our cabin. and it looks like the cabin's standing tall yet. Sagebrush Flats. We pull up to the cabin and find the power company had shut our electricity off by mistake, and so everything in our deep freeze had thawed out and spoiled. Next, we go to the outhouse and find a skunk has moved her babies in there.
It's a skunk. It's a skunk. I'm not going to have any participation in this.
It was 3 of the cutest little baby skunks you'd ever seen. But this little guy, he seemed to get kind of excited. And he turned and pointed his only weapon he had at me. And I guess he might have got me. Marge seemed to think she smelled something when I went back in the cabin. He just kind of liked his home in the toilet hole. He didn't seem to have any desire to get out and run for it. He just stayed there. And Mama, she took off someplace. I don't know where she's gone. Sure is a cute little face. He's sticking out there looking at me, and he's sure got nice markings. He's gonna be an awful good skunk someday. I have to be real good to him, 'cause he's expected to catch the mice around the cabin, so they won't be gnawing their way into the cabin. And that's his specialty, catching mice. Looks like he could catch a few of the ground squirrels around too. He's becoming a little agitated now. He's doing a lot of stomping his feet, and he keeps whipping that tail end around toward me. I sure hope he doesn't spray me again, but oh well, anything's worth a picture. His mama should have taught him not to carry that tail up over his back like that in that intimidating position. And she should taught him not to be so reckless with his spraying. Looks like he's spraying everything around here. He's not being a very good skunk right now. I messed around a little while taking these pictures. I tried to get Marge to come out and help me, but for some strange reason, she didn't seem to want to come around there at all. The next morning I went back out to see if I could get some more pictures, and I found the old mama skunk had picked them up and moved them. And I don't know where she took them to. Probably a badger hole where the old badger's been digging around there. There are plenty of them around the cabin. It usually takes me a half a day to fill all the badger holes in. So much for the outhouse. I don't believe I want to spend the night out here with the skunks, and I better go in and see what kind of luck I have getting back in the cabin. So I'm going to head in the cabin while Marge is upstairs. Uh-oh, she thinks she smells something. I don't know what that could possibly be. I don't smell a thing.
Why come out
She's
there?
got clean clothes for me, ordering me to come outside. So
What am I
I'll go
supposed to do?
outside there and see what she wants. She doesn't even want me on the porch. She wants me around alongside the cabin. And I've got orders to change the clothes and do it immediately. So I'll give her a little bit of a bad time, and then I'll go ahead and change my clothes just to keep a little peace in the family.
Why wouldn't you?
She's going to pour a little water just to cool things off a little bit, maybe wash some of the smell off. But heck, I don't smell bad. I don't smell a darn thing.
Let me in the cabin. Let me in.
Darn it, I got locked out of the cabin again.
Let me in the cabin. I smell okay.
Tom, go check.
Okay, I'm changed now.
No, you're not. I can see you.
How do I smell now?
You don't smell any better.
Thank you. Come see how I smell now.
Tom, you've got the cabin stinking.
Come see how I smell.
Why didn't you tell me that you were smelling like skunk and I could have
Here.
done something?
I don't for the life of me see what the big deal is.
No.
It's just a little bit of clean
Break that
skunk
if you don't
smell.
put it away.
Sure doesn't smell bad to me.
How do I smell now? Huh?
Better.
How's the cabin smell now?
I'm airing it out.
She's going to cool down a little bit and everything will be okay.
What does it smell like? Huh?
Like skunk.
Marge says there's still a strange smell in the powder room out here. I don't know where that could have came from, but she doesn't seem to like the smell. We have more guests at the cabin. These two old antelope. We saw them earlier with some babies. Apparently they've got them stashed. And they came up to lick a little bit of at our salt lick right out alongside the cabin. They're used to just having the run of the because we're not there that often. And so we see them every single day. They become quite gentle, in fact. Even though the salt's all gone, they're still licking the dirt there. Some of the salt has dissolved and gone into the ground. And there's old Gimpy. I'm sure glad to see him. I thought he maybe didn't make it through the winter. We've been noticing him out here for over 11 years, and he was a big buck then. I think his limp might be just a little worse, but it looks like he's not in all that bad a shape. And he survived those cold winters of Wyoming with all that wind and snow. And he's a tough old boy. He's dodged hunters and made it through those winters. And he's sure a chow hound. He's really devouring those tender little weeds and grass and little sagebrush tips. He's got to put on all the fat he can because the rutting season will be here pretty soon. And if he gets real fat and tough, maybe he can even get him another harem this year. I've seen him with harems before, but then a younger, stronger buck will take him away from him. And he sure is mad then. But he sure does perk up when he's got a harem. He's just one busy, busy buck. We've bought a brand new salt block that we've put on the end of the stick. This old doe is going to come in and check it out. She seems to think, well, maybe it's safe. I'll go ahead and lick it and see how it is. She's going to sneak up on it. It might run away or it might blow up, but she's going to check it out real close. Maybe Al-Qaeda's put it out there, so you can't be too careful. But, oh boy, that's the real thing, and is it good? Another one's waiting to come on in. Don't want to hurry into these things. If it's going to blow up, let it get her first. But oh boy, is that good. Now the rest of them will be in there. Well, it must be safe. It looks like she's got company now. The whole herd will be in here pretty soon, and she's not going to like that, having to share her block of salt with everybody else. But maybe since she knows this old doe, and they take turns babysitting, I guess there's nothing she can do but share it. But still, you don't have to make a hog out of yourself. Just take a quick little lick and that's good enough. Looks as if she's saying that's some of the very, very best of salt she's ever eaten. It's just lick smacking good. I've already mowed all the grass all the way around the cabin, and we've rearranged the rocks so no one will be driving on the front yard, and we've got it fixed so the power company can come in and read the meter good now. I'm still mad at them for shutting it off and spoiling all that good meat and stuff we had in the freezer. They probably haven't heard the last of that yet. We load up and bid the cabin farewell. We're going to head on our way home now. We're going to go around by Goldbug Hot Springs again. That was so nice and so sunny, and the water was so great there that we just can't resist heading back there. In a few hours, we're back at Goldbug heading up the trail. And the cactus are a few different colors of them are poking their heads out. And the mock orange is again blooming, lending its fragments to sweeten the air on the way up to Goldbug. Marge really likes the smell of these. Since we were up here last week, the Forest Service thinks somebody tossed a cigarette, and it started a fire. And so we talked to the fire crew that we're just heading down out as we came up. They just got it out today, and it looks like it burned a few little trees up here and went right on up the hill in the ground. The fire never affected the hot springs, and those were sure some clean looking firefighters. I don't know how they got so clean, but I have an idea. And here's an old spider. He likes the warmth of the water, and we watched him build this web. After he got the web built, he sat there and he caught these little gnats. And boy, when he caught a gnat, he'd sure get on it. Pretty soon he got full and he went and hid. Then someone else came and they were careless and got into his web. So the next day he built another web and was catching gnats again. He's kind of a handy little gadget to have around. Looks like she's elected me cook. She claims I still stink a little bit from that skunk, but that hot springs will take care of that. It won't be long and all that smell will be off me. We set our tent up back over a steam vent. I put the fly over the steam vent where the hot air was coming out, and boy, did that feel good at night. It took all the chill off the night air. Looks like it's ready, time to eat. I've already done the cooking. Somebody else is going to have to do the dishes. Somebody that doesn't like the skunk smell can get those dishes nice and clean. But anyway, there's plenty of hot water around. We put our tent in a different spot this time than we did before, and the view is nothing but spectacular. We can see the trail down below us as it winds its way up the canyon. The bridge is right down below us. We'll take a little hike up on the hill where we can look down on the hot springs. We cross the bridge and go down the little trails. And we like the one right down here. It comes out in a really nice pool. Right. There was at one time an old fluke went around this hillside where the two colors come together. The old metal flue went around the hillside. Below where you see the whiter colors, that's right where it went through there. The water had washed the lichens off the rocks and made them lighter right where the flue went and below as the water tumbled down that spilled from the flue. There's part of the old flue still hanging there. And you can see the line where it went right around the hillside. And also they had to pipe the metal around over the slide rock with this metal pipe, heavy galvanized metal. This is our backyard right behind our tent with the rushing rapids coming down here. And we even have a bush of wild roses across, and there's a wild rose in bloom right next to our tent. The steam vent comes out right here, so I put the fly of the tent over it so we can get the heat from it right in our tent. Boy, it was nice and cozy and warm in there last night. There was a darn tick on my belly crawling around. He hadn't bit me yet. And so I got him and set him on this rock.
He wasn't a very good tick.
A great big old piece of flues fallen loose and dropped down here. It's just metal. It's been bent into a flue shape there. Looks like the flue came across the slide rock and it crossed the cliff face right down here. The fire burnt right through where it once went across. And then I see it came right around the cliffs. The old flue must have had boards along the side of it to reinforce that galvanized steel, and they ran a flue clear across this side hill where the slide rock is, and then it looks as though it just went in a ditch on around, and I'm not sure what the purpose was or where the water went. Up on top here we can see people there was a whole tour group came, and they're just starting to leave now. We see them moving out. There's still a few sitting around the hot springs down there, but not too many. Try them and see how they are. How's that one? Is it good?
That one's pretty good. There's some more.
Okay. How was that one?
You want one?
Yeah, I'll have some.
Here.
Hold it in your hand so I can see it. Oh yeah. The view is nothing but spectacular from here in the hot springs. It's just like looking out over space and seeing the sun set on the hillside beyond us. I keep watching for a bear over there. Somebody said they saw bear droppings down on the trail, but the other day I thought I might have seen one, but it could have been a cow too, clear over across. From the hot springs, we're watching the setting sun hitting the mountain above. And lighting it up like it was on fire. The monkey flowers are still blooming above the hot waterfalls. They sure love that steam, and it sure makes them grow big and pretty. It looks like they're almost done blooming for this year though, but there'll be another crop of them again next year. The sun disappears behind a cloud and the horizon on our last day at the hot springs. It's bright and early on our last day at the hot springs, and we're packing up. We have to start heading for home, and it's going to take us about 12 hours to get home from here.
You need some help?
No, I got it.
I gotta get my pack on yet. Are you about ready to go?
Two old buck deer are standing watching us. They're both in the velvet. They're not going to be really big bucks, but they'll be kind of nice. And they're sure trying to get some fat on before winter hits. And I find my favorite flower, the ones I used to pick so many of when I was kids. They're called the rooster heads, with the sawtooth mountains in the background. We see the rooster heads blooming, as well as several other types of flowers growing along the little creeks in the marshy areas, adding some color to the landscape. We'll be home for dark that night, the Columbia River Gorge at sunset. Up into the sky, through some of the junipers around our campsite,